Early returns on the portal class as John Tonje plays maybe the best game of the night. Let's talk about what he did and what game one looked like for the Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. I'm your host, Ryan Harris, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Really appreciate the heck out of every single person tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. New customers, $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And guys, it's 1-0. Basketball season has started. It was Holy Cross. We all get it. But as Daltreed points out in the chat, you can't win them all unless you win the first one. The Badgers do take care of business against a bad Holy Cross team, and that means we got to jump up on that line.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
Okay, so let's talk about this. One game, Badgers started off horrifically bad. This is not a good Holy Cross team. They were bad last year and lost pieces. I want to start with player of the game. It's John Tonje. Tonje was better than I thought he would be, and I've been telling people ever since I went and watched practice, like, Tonje's going to be a good player. He should be a starter. A lot of what we talked about, a lot of what we've been saying, we saw, right? The ability to get to the free throw line. Tonje was 8 for 8 from the line today, right? That ability to get to the paint, come off 2 feet, draw contact. It puts pressure on the rim, but it draws gravity. He also shot the 3, which we've been talking about a ton. He's going to be a volume guy out there and shoot at a pretty high clip. The thing that impressed me the most with Tonje, because none of those things surprised me. Those are the things I expected with John Tonje, right? Drive closeouts, which we saw. Because here's the thing. When I was coaching, I went to a defensive clinic, and they were talking about different types of closeouts, right? And they said, we teach 3 different types of closeouts. So I'm going to really quickly bridge this. We teach a Reggie Miller closeout where you got to get right on their face. We teach, I forget the other guy, the non-shooter closeout where you can lay off them. And we teach a Kobe closeout where you got to do everything. My point is, teams are going to use a Reggie Miller closeout on John Tonje, which means you got to close out hard, high hands. You got to run them off the line. Tonje has the ability to attack that high closeout, quick pump fake, put the ball on the floor, and then get to the rim, get to the free throw line. 8 free throws today. That's a huge component of this offense. Driving closeouts, getting to the free throw line, attacking space. Tonje did that today. The thing that really impressed me with John Tonje is, from an energy standpoint, he was all over the court, right? 5 rebounds, but just multiple tips, flying out of bounds to try to save a ball. Like, his energy level was great. And at the beginning of the game, and I'm going to get into this in a second to start, at the beginning of the game where it looked like we were inexcusably sleepwalking a little bit, defense wasn't great. I thought we were giving up some offensive rebounds and some long shots. I also thought we were just missing open looks, by the way, which I'm also going to talk about. Tonje was that one part that was crashing the glass, getting second opportunities, like trying to get something going, getting to the line, getting fouled. Yeah, player of the game, John Tonje, 100%. Let's get into a few of these comments here, because this is the first reaction show of the year. Logan says, I like John Tonje. Logan Couch, we were excellent with our free throws. Easton Parks was at the game. First 10 minutes had me worried this was going to be one of the worst Badger teams in my lifetime. Yeah, I'm going to get into the good and bad later, so I want to talk about that later in the show. But I agree with you. Those first 10 minutes, man, someone had showed like a picture of the crowd, and there wasn't a ton of crowd. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't look like the team showed up either. We're going to get into that in a second. Let's talk rotations. I think rotations were one of the biggest questions I had coming into this game. What is it going to look like? How deep would guard go? Who would be the first people off the bench? So the starters are kind of what we discussed, right? It was Crowell, Winter, Tonje, and a backcourt of Klesmit and Blackwell. Early troubles, and they went right away to Gilmore and McGee. So Gilmore and McGee were the 6 and 7 guys in this game. That doesn't mean they're the permanent 6 and 7 guys, but that's where they went first. Ultimately, it's a 9-man rotation with Xavier Amos and Jack Janicki also getting some reps. Not in the rotation, Cameron Hunter, who is hurt right now, and Daniel Freitag, which we've kind of talked about. Maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. Please do not be discouraged by it. The dude's a freshman, and I am as guilty as anyone of hyping it up maybe to the point where there's unrealistic expectations. High ceiling. Like, he is a very high ceiling still. Do not be too discouraged. Just as a freshman, he's not in a pretty deep rotation right away. If this was the team from 2 years ago where there weren't as many bodies, Freetag would probably be in this 8-man rotation playing. This is a deeper team. I thought it was interesting to see Jack Janicki get 11 minutes this game, get real minutes. I also liked what I saw. Janicki, I was talking to Brandon Harrison, who's the communications director for Wisconsin men's basketball. He's on the show today. He said, I don't know if anybody watched that show, but he said Janicki, if you lined everybody and did a 3-point shooting contest on this team, Janicki might win it. Janicki was a really good scorer in Minnesota when he came in as a PWO. He's a little bigger now than he was. I kind of like him. There's something there. There really is with Janicki. So that was interesting. And that's kind of the rotation. So 9-man rotation right now without Hunter or Freetag. When Hunter gets healthy, might be a little interesting. As Freetag builds reps, it might be a little interesting, but it is a deep team. We talked about it. And that deep team is going to give you some more rotational options going forward. They have more of an ability to mix and match. You saw it early with guard. Still trying to figure it out a little bit, I think, but the rotation to me was interesting. Let's get some more of these comments here. Easton said, boys put it together after that, but it's Holy Cross. Easton said, shooting's going to have to get a lot better. Yeah, I agree. Well, does it though? So here's the thing. Yes and no. I said this. We were in the Discord. We were having a game chat, and early on when Wisconsin was down 23-7 or whatever it is, I said, listen, it's going to find its level. Water is going to find its level. The Badgers were getting a ton of open looks early in that game. They just weren't hitting them. Max Pleasant was 1 of 7. Tonje missed a couple. After making his first one, Crowell missed one. Kamari McGee missed his first one. But eventually, over time, open looks translate to good offense. It just does. And if you keep taking those open looks, I do think this is a good shooting team. The percentages that the players have will tell you it's a good shooting team. Eventually, you keep getting open looks, you're going to start making them. So I don't actually know, Easton, if they have to shoot better. They shot 35% from 3 on volume. That plays. They shot 31 threes. 31 threes at 35% over the game, 35.5% over the game. That's actually pretty solid offense. And you factor in Klesmit going 1 of 7. There's going to be, I think it's a good shooting team. So I actually think they shot pretty well. Easton says, I think with Kles as the 6th man, we'd be better. Maybe. I think in that lineup, you have Kamari McGee as the point guard. I thought McGee looked good today. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like McGee coming off the bench and giving you a bit of a spark, but we'll see how that plays out. I could see the argument for either one of those. JK says, looked decent when they decided to play defense. I thought the defense, especially in the first half, was the most frustrating part of this. Poor perimeter defense. Holy Cross shot 37% from 3. Couple open looks in transition, which I thought were inexcusable. Secondary transition where Holy Cross is running to spots. I thought our defense was just a little slow getting there. Defense rotations, I didn't think were as strong as they need to be early on in the game. I also think you saw some of the issues with the 2 big man front court where there were moments Crowell and Winter had some trouble on the perimeter defensively. That's going to be, to me, a reoccurring theme potentially. I just think there's not a ton of speed in that front court from an athletic standpoint if you're trying to guard on the perimeter against an offense that's stretching it out. So, yeah, I think defense was a bit of a question mark in this game. I also think Holy Cross was hitting some contested 2s early in the game that they stopped hitting. Right? Again, water finds its level. Wisconsin was getting open shots. They weren't hitting them. And no, the answer to that isn't just to stop shooting 3s. I'm telling you, people are like, go inside, pound the ball inside. This team has to hit 3s this year to be a good team. They have to hit 3s, period. And to me, it's encouraging. It's encouraging that guard has moved towards this more modern style of basketball where the 3 is more efficient. It's also encouraging to me that they didn't abandon it. You cannot abandon your strategy 1 game in and say, well, we're not hitting 3s, so we're going to stop doing it. No, this team has to hit 3s. They stuck with it, and they ended up shooting 35% and winning by 24. 24. It's not a good team. Holy Cross is not good. But this is how this Wisconsin team is going to have to play, and they're going to have to win this year, and they're going to have to do it by hitting 3s. I thought that was encouraging that they stuck with it. They stayed the course. They didn't divert because you can't 1 game in, 1 half in. You can't just abandon the type of team you have to be. So I thought that was encouraging. I know people were maybe frustrated. We weren't pounding the ball against Holy Cross a little bit more, but you got to hit 3s. You got to hit 3s with this team, and they kept at it, and that's how they built that lead. All right, let's take a quick break. I want to come back and talk about some stats that I found really interesting, both good and bad. And I want to talk about that bad start and why Wisconsin needs to be better to start games. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. Game 1 in the books. Wisconsin is 1-0. Let's take a quick break for our friends of the show over at Roy. Roy is the number 1 source. Like, Roy has redefined the NIL game. Roy, which stands for Return on You, has changed the complete game. Now you have power in this. Like, you are able to donate specifically to a certain player, unlike collectives where you don't know where your support is necessarily going. You kind of put your money into a pot. Roy allows you to contribute directly to a player, keep them on the roster, say thank you. You're able to help basically influence what's going on with the NIL game and have a lot more control of your money. Plus, you get exclusive content from those athletes you donate to. Plus, Roy has an exciting giveaway. You can win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, use code LOCKEDON, and you're entered. If you're already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also automatically gets you entered. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now. Join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. Make sure to check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Roy, download the support the players, change the game. Also, right now, if you download Roy, you're entered to win $5,000 in cash. Roy is Return on You. Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains the #1 source for all your sports betting needs. The official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. An interesting line in today's game. If you were following along, the Badgers were flirting back and forth with it at the end. FanDuel, do it responsibly, but it's a great time to get into spicing your sports weekend. NFL, NBA, obviously college basketball starting next, college football still going on. Over at FanDuel.com, $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. The fastest, simplest, easiest way to spice up your sports weekend. Again, as always, do it responsibly, please, but have fun with it. Enjoy it. FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast for a reason. They are incredible, fast, simple, and easy to use over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's jump back into this. Again, game 1 of the season. The Badgers win. They're 1-0. Not a great team, obviously, but this is how you have to start. Like, I'll also say this. Some credit to the Badgers for fighting out of this hole and winning by 20. Discredit to the Badgers for getting in the hole to start with. Let's talk some stats, good and bad. Pros, I already talked about it. They shot 31 threes. Again, people aren't going to want to see it at times. People are going to get frustrated at times. People are going to say go inside at times. This team, I'll say it again, has to shoot threes this year. The fact that they're shooting on volume, they got over 30 up, that's a good thing to me. I think they have to do it. 16-16 from the free throw line. How many times in the last couple of years have the Badgers struggled at the line where at the end of the game, we're just gritting our teeth. We're hoping it goes in. We're almost praying, please don't foul us. 16 for 16 today. Again, Tonje, 8 for 8. He's a great free throw shooter. That's part of what he's bringing to the game. Blackwell was 4-4. Both of those guys have the ability to really get to the line and punish teams when they get there. 16-16. Incredible job from the line. Badgers plus 17 on the glass. Excuse me. I think early in the game, there were some issues where a couple of long shots from Holy Cross. Long shots always lead to long rebounds. Holy Cross was able to track a couple of those down, but plus 17 on the glass for the Badgers. 11 turnovers, right? Wisconsin, again, you talk about a team that maybe doesn't have not even maybe, they don't have the traditional point guard. You play your first game of the year, mixing in a bunch of new pieces, a pretty deep rotation, and you finish with 11 turnovers. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. A couple of those need to get better. Like there were a couple careless ones I thought that they had, but 11 turnovers is a good sign, plus 17 on the glass. A couple good things there. The bad. Let's talk about the bad for a second. That start's inexcusable. You can't open up at home against a not very good team. And quite frankly, you hit the first three. Steven Krause hits the first three, which, by the way, yes, please shoot. Krause, stop thinking about it. Just shoot the ball. He had a shot later on where you can tell he's like a little more mechanical when he's thinking about it. Krause just got to shoot the ball when he's open. But they go up 3-0. Great. I'm like, we're never going to lose again. And then Holy Cross rips off a 13-0 run. They're up 13-3, 27-5, whatever it was. Like that, you can't dig yourself that type of hole. Now you're able to get out of it because you're a much, much better team than Holy Cross. But against real teams in the Big Ten, you're not digging yourself out of a 20-point hole. You cannot start that slow. I thought the defense to open up, it was just lackadaisical. Too much dribble penetration, not finding guys on the perimeter. It's just kind of inexcusable stuff. Now, I think this team is a slow burn. I think it's going to get better as the season goes on. The defense rotations are going to get cleaner. But you can tell they turned the defense up a notch about middle of the second half into the rest of the game, where defensive pressure was better. They were cutting off rotations. They were taking charges, forcing turnovers. That intensity's got to be there from the jump. And Holy Cross had a few too many, quite frankly, easy looks on the perimeter, and then they were able to get into the lane a little too easily. So defense has to get better. Start has to get better. They gave up 37% from three. Not good enough. Perimeter defense was a problem last year. Game 1, Still a problem. Again, some of those, if you're watching the game in the first half, there was some secondary transition stuff where what I mean by that is, so a primary transition, you get a run out, maybe a layup. Secondary transition is when you're coming back and the defense still isn't fully set. And for whatever reason, the defense doesn't match up to guys running to threes. So there was a couple spots where Holy Cross ran to a three on the wing. We didn't get set. We didn't find the guys in transition. They got open looks. That's inexcusable. You got to find guys in transition. There's going to be cross matches. You got to figure it out. You got to talk. That's basic level stuff. You come down the court screaming, someone's got the hoop, someone's got the ball, and then everyone else is taking the wing shooters. Got to be better there. Just got to be better there. Crowell with 3 turnovers and 2 assists. I've talked a lot about how Crowell, I think, is going to be a fulcrum for this team. Right? They're going to lean on him in the post where they're going to get it to him and let kind of the offense tilt around him, pivot around him, flex around him. He had 3 turnovers and 2 assists. He's got to be better as that pivot. They got to be able to get the ball to him and let him make quicker decisions. I thought in the first half, he was a little choppy in his decision-making. I think that's got to get a little cleaner. Klesmit 1 for 7 from 3. Just not a great shooting night. I don't care too much about that one. Like, shooters got to shoot, and you're going to have some 1 for 7 nights, and you're going to have some 6 for 7 nights. As long as he continues shooting it, I'm fine. I trust in him as a shooter, and I think the law of averages are going to balance him out. I thought Xavier Amos had a bit of a rough game. It looked like he was a little too quick to hunt his perimeter shot. I would have liked to have seen him use his athleticism and get downhill a little bit more and attack the glass a little bit more. But those are some of the good and bad for me from the stat line. Let's bang on some comments here. Again, really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Cannon. Dude, I love Cannon. Tonje looks good. Another 4-2 stud. I love Omaha. Yeah, man. Christopher Gerber says, rough start. Those first 10 minutes were brutal. Brutal. But they recovered. And for as much as you can absolutely and justifiably ding them for digging a 20-point hole, you also have to give them credit for winning by 20, which means past that point, right, that 20-point hole or whatever they were in, past that point, they went on like an 80-40 run. So, again, not a good team, but they did end up taking care of business. Hoogs said Tonje is an X factor. He's good, man. Tonje is a really good, solid, third or fourth wheel. Again, he was the best player offensively tonight. I don't think he can consistently be that. I think that guy's got to be Blackwell, and Klesmit's got to play a little better. But Tonje is going to be a really nice piece in this rotation this year because he's solid, he's big, gets in the paint, will bang shots. And if he plays with the energy he played with tonight consistently throughout the year, that's a steal in the portal, an absolute steal. Let's see. Drew said Janicki could be something special in the next couple of years. Couple things with Janicki that I like that I saw. First of all, he understands spacing. Janicki really moves with purpose. You can see he drifts to open spaces on the perimeter. He's a very good shooter. He can really stroke the rock. That's going back to his high school days. He's got enough size now where he can cause some matchup problems. You can't really put a guard on him and be really comfortable. And then his movement skills are pretty good. He also had to play in the second half coming in on transition. He could have just pulled it. Instead, a really nice dump pass to Winter in the post, and then Winter finished. Janicki's got something. I know people are so quick to write it off because he was a PWO, but so is Showalter. So are a lot of guys. Wisconsin, of all places, should understand the importance of a PWO. I think Janicki's got something in him as a rotational guy. I really do. I was impressed by what I saw when I was able to watch practice earlier this year. People within the program have talked about him. He has good movement skills and he can shoot the ball and enough size. Yeah, I think there's something there. Bo Dre again says their schedule is pathetic. 6 out of the first 7 games are against tech school talent. I think it's good that they start with a slow schedule this year because there's a lot of pieces to move in. I think that's a good thing. G5098 says we would have saw more free tag at point guard. I just don't think he's ready there. We saw in the UW River Falls scrimmage, free tag had 4 turnovers. A couple of them weren't very good. Again, I'm not low on free tag. I'm just low on free tag right now in this immediate moment. We got to give him time. And even then, I think he's more of a combo guard. I don't think he's a true point. And I've said that from the beginning. And that's okay. He could be a dynamic scorer, and that could be more important. Let's see. Zach said Freetag should have played more. Maybe. Falls 56 says, sorry, I didn't mean to cut that comment short. Yeah, maybe. I think they're trying to get a lot of guys in, and they're trying to find rhythm for the players that they want to play. And right now, Freetag is just on the outside of that rotation. So, to me, and I'm speaking for Greg Gard, which I shouldn't do, but I can see the vision in trying to establish more consistent roles for the guys who know right now are in that rotation. And that's those top 8 or 9 guys. So I understand it from Greg Gard's standpoint for sure. Would I have liked to see more free tag? Maybe a little bit more, because I do think you're going to need him at some point this year, but I understand what Gard was doing from that rotational standpoint. Bo says Klesman is so streaky. It's really weird. And he was really streaky last year, too. If you remember, there's about a 4-game stretch last year where Klesman was nuclear. I mean, just unbelievably good. But then there's like a 4-game stretch where he looked like he didn't belong on the court from a scoring standpoint. Like, he's just going to be a streaky guy. But I think you ride or die with him shooting the ball, because he's proven that when he gets hot, like, he's one of the best shooters in the Big Ten. So, yeah, he was streaky last year, started 1 for 7 today. I think you're going to see more streakiness from him. I think that's just kind of who he is. Tyler Strieber, good friends of the show, man. Good friend of the show, says, Tonje looked good tonight. Krause still missing easy bunnies at the rim. That's who he is, though. Like, I keep saying this. And Tyler, I love you, man. Everybody keeps wanting Krause. He's going to miss some easy bunnies at the rim. And here's the thing that I don't think it's because he's not the most physical guy. So little bumps and pushes and little things can get him off balance. Whereas a bigger, stronger guy that's just a little more physical is going to hold his ground more, be more in balance, and finish better because he's just a little more physical. That's not going to be Krause. But Krause still has some really nice moments, right? He's had a couple nice finishes. He is who he is, which is a solid starting center. But yeah, he's always going to miss a couple shots at the rim. It's kind of just who he is. And is it frustrating? Yeah. But again, that's just kind of who he is, for better and worse. And again, he's also going to give you things at the rim. He's going to give you things in the passing game. He hit a 3 to open the game. Like, he's a good starting center, and not much more than that. But a lot of teams would kill for a good starting center. So yeah, that's where I am on Corral. Let's take one more quick break. Come back. Your comments. Talk a little bit about the biggest takeaway I have from this game, Game 1. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, our show is brought to you by our great friends over at ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre Alcohol drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. This is how it works. If you've never done it, this is how it works. Step 1, drink your pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, get a good night's sleep. Step 3, wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Learn more. Get 15% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. If you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. All right, let's keep talking here, guys. Let's chop it up, finish up this segment. Again, 1-0. The Badgers season is off to a good start. They're 1-0. It is what it is. Not the cleanest, but again, there's a bunch of new pieces in this rotation, and they won by 20. They won by 24. They cleaned it up. They finished it off. I don't think you can be too frustrated by the game today. Let's see. A couple more comments here. Bryce says, Amos could be better than a lean forward check back in 2 months. Yeah, he could. Absolutely. There's a lot of pieces that are going to continue growing throughout the year. Brian Axness, perfect from free throws. Yep. Easton Parks says, man, if we had Con Knipple, I agree. That one hurt. Con would have fit so well into this team, but can't cry over spilled milk on that one. Bo says they're going to miss Tyler Wall. I agree. They'll miss some of that toughness, but they have shooting now. Like, they're not going to miss Tyler Wall's lack of spacing. I think we saw it in today's game. The floor is really spaced out now when the Badgers are on offense. They're emphasizing that. There's a lot. So some of the things that they're able to do with spacing that they weren't able to do last year, you see it, some of what they're trying to do. They're trying to do some like backside pick and roll where dribble handoff on the backside, 3 guys on the strong side, and they come off and they'll roll the big men to the rim. And there's just so much more spacing to work out of now that you don't have those 2 post players that can't shoot, right? The defense has to spread out more. It's one of the reasons you see John Tonje getting to the line a little easier. That's 8 free throws. It's one of the reasons you're going to see more penetration is there's just more space for the defense to cover. There's less big men in the paint clogging it up. So yeah, I do think they're going to miss Tyler Wall from a defensive toughness standpoint. Spacing is going to be nice though. And that's kind of the name of modern basketball. Steve said 23.5 spread, won by 24. Yeah, Vegas is crazy, man. Vegas is crazy. Smo, horrible D. Can't give up a bucket with 14 seconds. Blew the cover. Yeah, listen, the defense tightened up, but it is funny how Vegas these things always kind of have a bit there, a line there. Let's check out some more comments here. Brandon says, yeah, Con Knipp will go off for 22 points for Duke. Yeah, he would have been great. Ryan says Store played 15 minutes, got 5 points tonight. See more comments here. Guys, I really appreciate it, man. This is Realist says Corral is the definition of mid. Mid's not bad, though. This is the thing. Like, mid is mediocre, is average. I think that's lowballing Steven Corral. I think Corral's an above-average Big Ten starting center. That's what I think. And because he's not quite exactly as athletic or tough as people want, they ignore the things that he does for this team. That's just my take. Like, I'm not telling you you're wrong, Realist. I think people are generally a little low on Steven Corral, though. Coach McCrabby says, we'll be just fine, large bench, which will help us throughout the season. Yeah, I wanted to put this one up there because the depth it's evident. And this is what we talked about before the year. You can see the depth on this team. 9 deep without Freitag or Cam Hunter. And I think all 9 of those guys can play. Like, Carter Gilmore came in and gave you some really nice minutes tonight. Had an end one, had a putback, and still has his usual brand of kind of a tough, physical, active play. He played, I think, 8 minutes. Those are 8 good minutes from Carter Gilmore. I have no issues with Carter Gilmore having those 8 minutes. Janicki played 11. Amos played 11. It felt like a really solid 9-man rotation, and 9 is deep. And if you lose a guy, the other nice part, if you do lose a guy or somebody fouls out, you still can turn to a Freitag or a Hunter when he gets back. This is a deep team. It really is. And I said at the beginning of the year, I don't think our top is as heavy. Like when you take out a Wall, a Store, a Hepburn, I think the 1 through 4 on last year's team was probably better, but I think the 1 through 9 on this year's team is better. And that's going to be the trade-off, right? Will the depth help compensate for some of that? I think so. And I think the shooting is going to help compensate for some of the issues as well. Again, defensively, things have to get a little cleaner. Dan Miguel says, what did Blackwell do that with this game this year that he didn't do last year? Blackwell had an interesting game to me. And my biggest concern with Blackwell, I worry that having kind of the point guard role or partially responsible for the point guard role is going to take away some of his scoring aggressiveness. It's going to take away from some of his ability off the bounce. It's one of my biggest worries with trying to put too much on his plate because I just want Blackwell to be aggressive. Go get buckets, cut hard. A lot of what he did last year was a great cutter. I don't want him too responsible for setting up and facilitating this year because I think it kind of takes away from just his natural scoring ability and the game that he has. So I thought it took him a little while to get into the rhythm of today's game. It looked, and I don't know if that's because he's thinking too much to set people up or if it's just kind of within the flow of the game. We need him to be aggressive. I would almost prefer Klesmit to take some more of those ball handling responsibilities, but we'll see. I mean, it's one game. It's one game. Yeah, Angelo, I got you, brother. Corral was 45% from 3 last year. Why so many Corral haters? That's what I'm saying. Like, listen, here's the thing. If Corral went in the portal, there'd be 200 teams lining up to pay Steven Corral. 100%. Big Steve would get a payday. Like, it's hard to find quality big men, and that's what he is. Daltrey, your take is right on Corral, but you need something a little better for your number 1 in the 5 spot. Listen, I think you could always upgrade. Like, I'm not here to tell you Steven Corral's a top 20 center in college basketball, but I am here to tell you he's a top 8-ish center in the Big Ten. You can do way worse. But yeah, no, I hear you. Like, could you be better there? Absolutely. Would you like to have somebody with a little more bounce that could challenge shots at the rim a little bit better, that would be a little more physical in the post? Absolutely. I'm not here to ignore the deficiencies of Steven Corral. I'm just trying to highlight some of the upside that he gives you and some of the things he brings to the court. Because I think people overlook that stuff because they want a center that's like Marcus Camby, that's swatting shots into the 13th row. It's just not who Corral is. But don't ignore the other stuff he brings to the roster, right? How many times do you see teams double Steven Corral? Why are those coaches doing it? Because Steven Corral will score in their post defender if you don't double him at times. Like, coaches aren't dumb. Well, some coaches aren't dumb. Mitch James, Ilver had stepped up to 3 and 4. Yeah, Ilver, that's 10 right there, right? And Ilver's not even really playing, but that's another guy that you could put in if you had to. It's a deep team. It's absolutely a deep team. JB, there we go. My guy. Corral is good. He's the best player on the team. I don't know if he's the best player on the team, but he is good. Yeah, Corral's a solid player. Will says after 13 years, he should be a top 8 center in the Big Ten. Stop it. He's just an upperclassman. Like, he's just an upperclassman. That's all it is. Let's keep going here. Hugh Scollin, obviously a first half that will live in infamy. Yeah, that first 10 minutes was rough, man. He was good to see you, though, brother. Also a really good dude. Easton Parks, Esijan was bad last year. Don't play guard for moving on from him. Yeah, and Esijan played with Nebraska today. How did he do? How'd Connor do today? I have not seen that one. I think there was a couple mentions in the chat. See if there's any more comments in here. Again, bunch of comments, guys. Really do appreciate everybody. I think maybe we'll wrap it up there. Big takeaway here, though. Yeah, Jan says Tonje plays a lot like Blackwell, high energy. Big takeaway here, though, is I thought Tonje showed up. It's game one. It was rough, but they recovered. And this team, I'm just letting everybody know now, this team is going to live and die by three-pointers. Now, they have to play defense. They still have to get shots in the bucket, but there's shots in the paint. But there's going to be games this year where they don't shoot well and they're going to look bad. And they're going to lose some games they probably shouldn't because of it. There's also going to be games where they punch above their weight class because they're going to hit 43% of their threes, and they're going to beat and knock off some good teams. So just be ready for it. We're going to live or die by the three this year. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really do appreciate all of y'all so much. As I continue, man, I have this bad habit of closing down the show and then continuing to see comments that I find really juicy. It's like me at a buffet. I have a hard time not eating or like being done because I keep looking over the buffet, even though I've had a couple plates and like, man, that bacon wrap thing looks good. And man, they get some dessert over there. Maybe I'll just go get another plate. And that's kind of how I am with the comments. Like, cause I'm just seeing Kedrick pop in, and Kedrick's one of the smartest dudes I know. Two wings who can shoot, were perfect from the free throw line and can play defense. Sign me up. Yeah, I love it. Like Tonje's so versatile, man. He's going to give a lot to this team this year. A couple other comments over here that are great. Jake says Greppy coming in for those minutes going to average 10 assists a game. Greppy's got a ways to go, but he does have size, and he does have a little bit of a feel for the game. He's got a ways to go. I wouldn't count on 10 assists per game for him yet. Oh, I love this comment here. I want to end on this one. JB said Isaac Gard hit a three. As a dad, I think that's just like the coolest thing, right? You imagine as a coach seeing your kid come out there, end of the game, and bang a three in from your bench. I just got to think that's like the coolest thing ever. So to me, that's heartwarming. Like I've always said this, I think Greg Gard is incredibly easy to root for. Whether or not you think he's the guy, there's been moments I've been frustrated with him. I still think once in a while he can mix in a zone, so shoot me. But like I think he's a real guy in an NIL era. I don't think he runs people off. I think he treats people the right way. I think he's incredibly easy to root for, right? And I think it's very cool to see his kid hit a three in the corner in a D1 game while he's watching and coaching. That's just got to be the greatest feeling in the world. Like I get proud of my kids for doing all sorts of just simple stuff. I like that. I smile when that happens. All right, let's wrap it up there on Wisconsin. Really do appreciate all y'all for tuning in, and we will talk tomorrow when you're done here. Go check out Locked On Big Ten, all the latest news in the conference over on the Big Ten channel. We will talk later this week. A bunch of content coming up. We got Nicholas Clayton coming up. I think we have Patrick Herb, although I got to schedule it still. Rafael Davis, I think he's coming up, former Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year over on the Big Ten Network. We're going to talk some hoops with him. So a bunch of content coming up this week. I think we got Nick Osen from 247 coming up on Wisconsin. Appreciate y'all. Talk later.